And that's why I'm convinced, Greg, that you can correct this situation and prevent it from happening in the future.
Managers are often confronted with the problem of improving the performance of an employee. To do this effectively, the manager should deal with the problem as soon as it arises and in a way that will result in the employee being motivated to improve. By focusing on the performance problem and not the person, the employee's defensiveness is greatly reduced. The manager, you will observe, accomplishes this by following these action steps. 1. Focus on the performance problem and its consequences. 2. Ask for the employee's ideas on how to solve the problem and add your own. 3. Come to agreement on the steps to be taken by each of you. 4. Express your confidence in the employee's ability to correct the problem. 5. Set a follow-up date. And 6. Praise the employee as soon as you observe an improvement in performance.
Greg, the reason I asked you to stop by this morning is that I just got word on the launch detail aid from the Compliance Review Committee, and it was rejected. And specifically, it was rejected because the claims were not properly supported.
I don't believe it.
And it's imperative, Greg, that corrective action be taken immediately to provide adequate documentation for the claims, or we won't be well equipped to support this launch.
Right.
The other thing, too, I'd like to mention is that I was really taken aback by the fact that Bob had to bring this up to me. You know, this type of news, I would expect that if there is a problem, that it would come up through our own shop.
Well, Ron, as you know, the deadlines have been tight all along. I wasn't involved in setting up the deadlines. I don't know why the deadlines are set as they are, maybe to meet budget or forecast constraints, but it's been very difficult to meet those type of deadlines all along.
So what you're saying is that the deadlines are tight and unrealistic, and that's really contributed to the situation.
Exactly. I've been just trying to meet my day-to-day activities all along, and I've been trying to meet legal and medical and regulatory affairs people, and to try to get this thing to print in time, it's just been very difficult.
So it was overwhelming at times trying to stay on top of your current activities while coordinating the information between the departments involved for this assignment.
Yes, I only received the copy 2 weeks ago, well, a week or so ago. Everyone was running around crazy. No one wanted to deal with revisions. And you know, Ron, every project or campaign I've worked on in the past has never had a problem. Everything's been perfect.
That's true. I think back to the NitroDisc work that you did for the audiovisual program last month, which was top-notch. All the elements were there and in place. And that's why I'm convinced, Greg, that you can correct this situation and prevent it from happening in the future. What ideas do you have?
More realistic deadlines would make all the difference in the world.
Yes, you know, more time to do what we have to do would be a welcome sight, but the launch dates are fixed. There are a lot of departments involved in working towards these launch dates, and those are things that we're just going to have to live with. Now, specifically, what ideas do you have to get the correct information into the detail aid and to ensure that these problems do not occur in the future?
I did my job. I sent the copy over to R&D, and it's delayed because of some dispute between legal and regulatory affairs.
What has to be done to get around that situation?
Well, I suppose I can try to schedule a meeting between legal and regulatory affairs, and we could try to come to some sort of conclusion before we leave the meeting.
When do you feel that could be set up?
I could go schedule a meeting right after this.
Good. What are your objectives for that meeting? And perhaps before you start, you can use one of my pads here to outline what we cover.
Well, first of all, I think I need to find out where exactly they are in the review and approval process.
Absolutely, absolutely. What else would you be covering?
Well, I'll see if they can resolve any issues they may have, and if in that meeting, if not, establish a deadline for when the final copy has to be back to us.
Now, what deadline would you be shooting for?
Well, I think a week should be sufficient.
Well, let me just think for a moment here. We're scheduled to see the agency a week from Thursday. That's about 10 days from now, and we would need at least 2 days review time. Well, that 7 days would be the absolute latest that we could get the material from the committee, but I would like for you, if at all possible, to get this wrapped up during that meeting.
Great.
And one thing I'd like to add, Greg, is that if you run into any problems, be sure to let me know immediately.
Sure.
So that the situation can be taken care of without missing any deadlines.
Maybe you can give me some ideas as to how you've dealt with legal and regulatory affairs before in issues like this.
I think that's a very good idea, and what I'd like for you to do is to set some time aside after you've scheduled a meeting, and we can sit down and talk about some approaches that have worked for me in the past.
Sure.
And what about the future, Greg? What needs to be done differently to prevent this from happening again?
Well, I think I need to implement a formal tracking report. A written status report might be helpful.
How often do you think you would implement this type of tracking report?
I think monthly should be sufficient.
You know, looking at the activities that we're involved in, I think perhaps weekly might be more appropriate. What do you think?
That'd be great.
Anything else?
No, with all these steps, I think that should do it.
Okay, well, let's just look at the steps that we've outlined. After our meeting here, you're going to schedule a meeting with the Compliance Review Committee.
Right.
And the objective of that meeting will be to discuss the requirements for the review and completed approval for the detail aid.
Right.
Now, ideally, that'll be wrapped up in the course of that meeting, but if not, they will be given 7 days maximum to complete that activity.
Right.
You will let me know if there are any problems that come up. You'll let me know immediately, so that I can rectify that. Now, once you set up that meeting with the Compliance Board, you're going to set aside some time with me so we can discuss techniques I've used that have worked well in dealing with the review board.
Yes.
And you will be completing a weekly update of all your projects.
Yes.
That will be given to me. Greg, you know, based on the ideas that you've given to me here and the work that you've done in the past, I am confident that you can rectify the situation and make sure that it's a thing of the past.
Thanks. I know I can.
Great. And as just one final comment, I think, relative to your update, when would you plan on getting that to me?
Probably Fridays.
Okay. To coincide with that activity, let's plan on getting together every Friday for the next month, say for an hour.
Sure.
Okay. Have your secretary set that up with mine.
Okay, I'll do it right away.
Okay. Good. Greg, I was speaking with Bob on another matter, and he mentioned that the meeting with the Compliance Review Board went quite well. Super. Great. He said that everything would be pulled together within the next couple of days, which puts us ahead of our deadline. Good job. I knew you could turn it around. Thanks for staying on top of it. Okay.